As you watch this short film about Chinese funerals, you will see many different types and styles of Chinese funerals. You will learn about funeral homes, funeral readings, funeral etiquette, Chinese afterlife and the preparations for it, and funeral locations. This here is a grand funeral march. These are often representative of someone wealthy or famous who has died. Here you see a parade, but what appears to be as celebratory of either the life or death of the individual is actually a public representation of their wealth and prosperity. While these photos depict a Buddhist funeral, a typical Chinese funeral might be held in the family's home. There, any statue or other object representing a Chinese god or holy object is covered with red paper, so they do not see the coffin or body. All mirrors are taken down because it is commonly believed that if one were to see the coffin in a mirror, someone in the family would die soon. The main entrance to the house is covered in white cloth, and a gong is hung over the entrance. If the gong is hung on the left, a man died. If it is hung on the right, a woman died. However, here we have a Buddhist funeral. The decorations are more elaborate. The altar, where the coffin is decorated elaborately, and Buddhist monks are present, along with family and friends. These next 7 photos are of a classic Chinese funeral procession. Typical custom is for this to take place immediately after the prayer ceremonies and the wailing of the mourners is finished. This is commonly known as sealing the coffin, where the coffin is nailed shut to symbolize the separation from the living and the dead. The yellow paper placed on top of the coffin, as seen here, is to defend the body from unkind spirits. From here, the coffin is carried out to the street in front of the house, with the head of the deceased facing forward. Common belief states that blessings are bestowed on pallbearers, so naturally, there are usually several volunteers from the family. Once the coffin is in the hearse and the procession begins to head towards the cemetery, the hearse takes off driving exceptionally slow for the first 1 mile. Following directly behind the hearse with his hand or his forehead on the hearse is the oldest son, and the rest of the immediate family behind him. Here, in this photo, we see so many relatives present that they did what is often done to accommodate the family wanting to walk behind the hearse. You see the red ribbon tied to the back of the hearse running through the hands of the family members. This is symbolic of the whole family walking closely behind the deceased together. After 1 mile, the oldest son will get in the hearse and ride sitting next to the coffin. A joss stick burning incense is lit during the entire process to symbolize the soul of the deceased. Occasionally, those following in the procession will carry miniature models of cars, ships, statues, valued possessions made of paper. These items symbolize the wealth of the deceased family, like we saw earlier in the parade. Confucius talked about filial piety, or the idea that the young must respect the old. A reversal of this is hard to embrace if the deceased is a child. If a child dies, no funeral rites are done. The child is buried in silence, and any prayers lifted up for the child must be done alone and in silence. During a wake, a person is dressed in their finest clothes. Like Western funerals, flowers are often put by the body, and the coffin is left open for the visitors to pay their respects. Food is left out as an offering to the dead, and the family members are positioned according to their rank in the family around the coffin. Monks will come to pray for the body at night to help it overcome the trial of death. 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 The trial of de Cemeteries are normally found on hillsides. The closer to the top, the more important of a person you are said to be. All in attendance will turn around to not face the coffin as it is lowered into the grave. Once the coffin is in the grave, the family members of the dead will throw handfuls of dirt on the coffin. The family members in attendance will receive a red envelope, which will contain money from the dead. Once the ceremony is over, a handful of dirt from the grave will be put into an incense holder at the family's home. Prayers will be offered to it as an ancestral tablet.